And so what we have to do, I feel, as a planet is and entrepreneurs, is open opportunities for girls and inspire girls in particular to then move into careers in science and technology and engineering and entrepreneurship and business. And so basically the doors within our organization are open for collaboration and for hiring women. We're always looking to do better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Girls should get more credit.
Would you like to add something?
In science, because they solve problems differently, often better, and boys do.
She said something really inspiring, but I couldn't hear all of it.
Oh, yeah.
She needs a microphone.
So Sophia has been is listening this whole time, by the way, and so when certain questions are directed to her, or pretty much any question, she can answer any question. So.
Did you design her face on purpose to always look like she knows something we don't know? Does anybody else feel that way? She knows some secrets about us. Anyway, Tadahiro, did you have something to add about gender equality within your organization and beyond?
My construction type of company, which is a major part of my business, most are men in Japan. And well, I think that's part of the reason is most of the construction site type of work are traditionally just men. But now younger women, now they're given the opportunity coming more into the such a workforce, in which I think is great. And we built on the robotics side at the Kawada Robotics. Well, again, most of the engineers are men. I think we have only one woman, but she's a manager. But most of we built over 10 variants of a biped humanoid robots, and only one looks like a woman. But what's interesting is that the one that I'm pushing right now is the humanoid robot that works at the factories, and we've sold over 300 of those robots, and they're employed at the factories, and they're working side by side with the co-workers, human co-workers. But most of them have names, and their names are usually women, girls' names. So maybe a robot is more women than female than men, and I think many people identify the co-worker robots as women, which is interesting. But you know, robot is not just technology, but there's a lot of psychology into it. The psychology, many different things. Like if the robot looks scary, nobody wants to work with it. But the robots I make are smaller than human, weaker than human, and so they're accepted in Japan. In Japan, at least, they're accepted as co-workers. So, but I don't decide whether it's male or female. But I think it was very interesting that many people name them girls' names.
Yeah, that's been a trend, actually. Computer programs and viruses are often named after women as well, but we won't make that comparison.
Typhoons, too.
Yeah, typhoons as well. Alexandra, is there anything specific that the Impact Hub is doing to encourage more women to get involved in entrepreneurship and innovation?
Yeah, so we do a number of things. We have just a partnership with the Cartier Foundation. They have the Women Award competition, and we've done some thorough studies in several locations to really see what are some of the systemic factors that are affecting women's entrepreneurship, or how we can promote women's entrepreneurship. As was mentioned here, Silicon Valley and others. I mean, we know now in this area there's about 30% of women. 30% of startups or new organizations are founded by women, and these women only access around 3% of venture capital or 5% of small bank loans. So they are like large, still very structural issues that exist. I just do want to mention still the fact that we can look at having a number of different programs such as mentorship, women ensuring access to networks, business networks for women, role models, specific finance that allows for women entrepreneurs. But there's still a fundamental issue in society that, in whatever sector we are looking at, women are still struggling with how to balance family and work. And in all these conversations, we always try to mold in the women into whatever is the existing paradigm. And, how can we put women, more into tech, more into this, etc. And it's just coming from Scandinavia and coming from Finland myself. I think it could also be interesting to, rather than having a focus on how to give it more women, to maybe change around the question, like how could we empower men to take a more active part in family life? What are government incentives that, on the core level, are changing some of these elements, such as paternity leave? For me, it's a major question. I cannot understand why there is a difference between maternity and paternity leave and why human beings cannot choose between themselves. There are some really key structural policies that are beyond and in society that are then creating these inequalities. So even though we are the Impact Hub, we are running a number of programs, having governments in the room. I think, look at Scandinavia, look at some examples, the core root issues. I think most people, as human beings, we agree family is a key value. Can we empower men to play a larger part of taking part of family life and therefore also changing business to be more sustainable?
Thank you for that. So we're going to wrap up a little bit early and hopefully be able to do a Q&A with the audience. But before we do that, I'd like to ask a question for each of you, and we'll go down the line. So the forum here gathers around 5,000 investment stakeholders, and several of them are policymakers. So I'd like to ask each of you what your message is to them to work toward nurturing future game changers like yourselves and to work collaboratively together to achieve the SDGs. We can start with David, we can start with Alexandra. Who wants to go? You go.
I can go. I think as policymakers, there's a lot you can surely learn from startups and entrepreneurs, and I would encourage you to do so. And one key element in that, I mentioned already this before, creating a culture of failure and risk-taking. But also, as startups and entrepreneurs do, they reach out to their beneficiaries, and they have to learn from the field. Involve these actors. Giving policy recommendations is impossible because particularly when it comes to entrepreneurship, there are some key elements. But every context, every industry is specific. It depends. So get to know who are your beneficiaries. Or key stakeholders, and include them in policy making. And there's also an invitation to partner with organizations like the Impact Hub and other accelerators. Approach us, partner with us. We hold a lot of information about enterprises, where they are, what their key challenges are. Integrate this data into your policy making. That's my and because in the sector change is happening so rapidly. This is not just a one-off exercise. This is a constant dialogue to understand what's going on in business, what's going on in the tech field, and how can you stay up to date with these challenges.
Thank you. Yes, please.
I've already said this, but technology should enrich people's lives and create new work, and technology should make people's lives better, not harm it. And but it takes a long time to be accepted. There's a changes that's happening, and many people do not understand it. There are many things I don't understand it, but please be patient. And what else did I say? Be open-minded about the changes. There are many to implement, use the technology to. Right now, I sell my robots to big companies, and because only big companies can afford the robotics team, the program it and such. So it takes a while for it to get to small businesses, and which requires more AI, more interactive and easier programming and such. So it takes a while. It takes time. So maybe it should be some incentive, maybe some help from the government to get that technology to the hands of the small businesses so they can enjoy the technology. I hope you understand that the technology development takes a long time. I've been doing the robot for almost 20 years now. To me, I still haven't seen a penny yet from this working on it, but I'm a believer, and I'm going to keep going. But getting a little bit more help from the policymakers would help. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would speak more specifically to Africa. And in this respect, I would say to African policymakers that we have missed the Industrial Revolution. We can't catch up. We would not solve our infrastructure problems in a hurry. It would probably take us another 20 years to 50 years to solve them. The one revolution we cannot afford to miss as Africans is the digital revolution. And the fundamental part of that revolution is access to data connectivity for the larger population, not just people who live in cities who can afford it. The closer we get to $0, $0 or zero whatever currency it is in all the African countries in terms of cost of data, the faster we can accelerate the digital revolution in Africa. Today I invest in several crowd-funded farms, actually. The only way that I have information that there's a farm somewhere in some remote village that just requires a little funding to be able to get access to seeds and input, and therefore be able to create jobs and be able to, harvest the right crops, is because someone created a digital platform where we can exchange information on that particular farm. So if it were possible for people in Africa to access data cheaply, data connectivity, there is so much more beyond e-commerce that is possible. And if there's one particular area I would say emphasize on for African policymakers, it's on finding out how do you make sure that you bring data connectivity to the larger population. India has done it. So it's not impossible for Africa to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we want to make sure as we're creating and investing and harnessing new technologies that the economic disparities between low-income and middle-income countries compared to more advanced economic countries doesn't continue to get wider and deeper. So it's something that it's good to see different communities that are looking to try to close that gap. Thank you. Barbara.
I think there are 4 points that should be considered by governments. The first one is recognizing that there is a lot of technology out there today, and obviously ensure the acceleration